Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The rising Russian prospect Arslanbek Makhmudov, who has a record of 10-0, has been confirmed to face Canada's Dillon Carman on October the 10th on a card headlined by David Lemieux, and this card will be in Canada. So Makhmudov, as we know, does reside and has been fighting in Canada, although recently he signed a co-promotional deal with Golden Boy, but yet to have his first fight on that deal because of the pandemic. And this is his first fight since the pandemic struck. So obviously he has been waiting and watching other peers in the heavyweight division getting back into the ring. And later in the video, I'll do a quick compare and contrast in terms of some of the prospects, because in the scheme of things, this isn't a bad opponent for Makhmudov at this stage of his career, and also compared to the opponents that he has been facing more recently. But we'll get to the press release first and then a few thoughts. So the press release, it talks about the card, but it's sort of, because in Canada, there hasn't been combat sports allowed to, be staged until now. So the press release from Eye of the Tiger Management, which looks after Makhmudov and others, says, following the authorization granted by the public health authorities regarding the resumption of activities in the combat sports sector, and the holding of professional sports events, Eye of the Tiger Management will present its first gala since the outbreak of COVID-19 on Saturday, October 10th. Then it goes through that David Lemieux, yada yada yada, headlining Arslanbek Makhmudov defending his NABF title against Dillon Carman. And further down, Camille Estefan, who runs Eye of the Tiger Management, says, we opted for local fights not only because we wanted to avoid international air travel and the associated risks, but also to allow Canadian boxers to get back into action. Local duels are always very popular with boxing fans because they are often the most exciting and electrifying. We have had proof of this on several occasions, and then it does go on, but I'll leave it there. But in terms of Makhmudov and his post on social media saying they set a date of battle of 10 October, I will fight against the Canadian boxer Dillon Carman with the help of God, do what I do best, destroy the rival. So this fight, Makhmudov 10-0 coming into this one. Dillon Carman, he has a record of 14-5. And Carman is a good domestic guy in Canada. Really, that's been about his lot. He has had the odd upset in his career, a la Simon Keane, who he unexpectedly knocked out back in 2018. Although Keane did avenge that loss last year, stopping Dillon Carman in 3 rounds. But so this fight, Arslanbek Makhmudov, this is his 11th fight. Dillon Carman at the moment is rated number 55 in the world. So it's actually not a bad test for him. And it's a guy in Carman who's, a bit of a puncher. He's 6'5". He's got some height. Makhmudov needs to be in with some of the taller timber in the heavyweight division, at least guys that can replicate some of what he's going to be getting further down the track. In terms of this fight, who wins? Well, my pick, it's going to be Arslanbek Makhmudov. I think this is going to be a bit of an all-action sort of brawl. I think that Arslanbek Makhmudov, who we've seen is very right-hand dominant, he goes in there with vicious intent, trying to knock his opponents out with every single punch. Right hand, right uppercut, those are the favourite punches. Although there's been a little bit more variation in recent fights, predominantly that's what he's looking for. And I think we're going to see him looking to take Carman's head off. But in the process, he may actually wear a shot or two, because he's not, his defense is his offense and he can be hit. We haven't really seen him hurt to any real extent to this point. He does seem to have a very, very good chin, and that's going all the way back to the amateur days where, guys were lighting him up, but he was still able to, just continue coming. Didn't always get the wins back in the amateurs, obviously 3 rounds, that sort of stuff. World Series of Boxing, that was 5 rounds, and he got a couple of decent wins in the World Series of Boxing, upsets like against Mihai Nistor, for example, who is now his Golden Boy stablemate. But he had been sort of touched up by other heavyweights who outboxed him. But in the pros, 10, 12 rounds, what he's going to be looking for his all-action style and the way he keeps coming forward and the authority in which he throws his punches, and he has caught up with everyone so far. But it remains to be seen the sort of style that he's got, how that's going to translate at the upper end of the division. But you can be sure Arslanbek Makhmudov is never going to die wondering about, should he have thrown some punches and done certain things, because he's going to leave it all out there. He's just going to go for the kill almost every single second of every single round, looking to come forward and just annihilate his opponent. And we'll see that again. And in Dillon Carman, I think he's going to probably get him out of there in a couple of rounds, 3 rounds perhaps, just because of the style of the fight, this is going to be an all-action fight. Carman will fancy this, as Carman did for the fight with Simon Keane back in 2018. That sort of devolved into a bit of a war, and Keane came off second best. Although I do think Makhmudov has a better chin, and I think he does punch harder than Keane as well. I think that Dillon Carman may end up landing some shots, but I think we'll see Makhmudov just keep coming. And there was a fight that Carman was in 2019, in February of that year, against Yevgeny Romanov. And at that point, this was Carman coming off the Keane win, and I thought, actually, that seems like that could be a good test at that point, an appropriate sort of test for Romanov, given what Carman had done against Simon Keane. And Romanov just blasted him out inside the first round. It was just over a minute into the fight, and he was out of there. Carman didn't look good. So, yeah, I wonder if maybe the best of Dillon Carman has come and gone. He's always the guy that's going to come in, give it a go, and give it a spirited effort. But I do think Arslanbek Makhmudov goes into this fight a heavy favourite, and I would be picking an early stoppage. It could be the first round, but definitely under 3. But in terms of the opponents that Makhmudov's been facing, this actually represents a step up compared to some of the recent fodder that Arslanbek Makhmudov has had, at least the last couple of fights. You look at a very faded Samuel Peter, stopped him in a round. There was Julian Fernandez, stopped in 3 rounds. The Jonathan Rice fight, that was a good one. 7 rounds for Makhmudov to get him out of there, although he controlled that fight pretty much from the get-go. But this fight, Dillon Carman, and where he's sort of rated at the moment in the world, compared to Makhmudov, who's rated number 34 on BoxRec, Carman number 55. On paper, at least, this actually does represent a minor step up from a couple of recent fights, where compared to, we've just had Filip Hrgovic facing the world number 646. You had Daniel Dubois facing Ricardo Schneider. So coming back in after a bit of a layoff here because of the pandemic, facing a guy in Canada where there is some interest. I'm sure that this is one of the names that had been thrown out by a number of fans in the past year, that someone, if Makhmudov is going to be campaigning up in Canada for any length, that he should be looking to fight and get through, clean out the Canadian scene, and possibly he should even look to potentially face Simon Keane at some point. Although I'm not sure that Arslanbek Makhmudov's handlers, Eye of the Tiger management, are looking to sort of go that route at this point, given they have been working with Keane as well. But I do think that at this point, this is it is what it is. It's a first fight off the pandemic. On paper, it looks like it could be competitive, 34 versus 55. Carman has fought at a certain level where Makhmudov is sort of coming up to that level. But I do think that Makhmudov, he's got all the momentum. He's going to have the brutality in here. He's going to land a big punch, and several of them probably. And he's probably going to knock out Dillon Carman, stop him inside 3 rounds tops. Could even be a first round stoppage based on what we saw in that Yevgeny Romanov fight with Carman back in 2019, but we shall see. But what did you make of this matchup? I don't mind it, given it what it is, and it's a more appropriate test than some other prospects have been facing. I mean, to me, this is sort of a similar sort of, if you look at Tony Yoka versus Johan Dorper, it's that sort of fight where they need these sorts of tests and steps, although it's probably not going to tell us too much, this fight, about who Arslanbek Makhmudov really is, because we do know that to a large extent. But drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.